In a recent video, I did an overview of xTool's newest laser, the M2. Now that's a diode laser that you can get as a 10 watt or a 20 watt. I have the 10 watt. But in addition to using those laser heads, there's certain accessories that you can purchase. One of those is an infrared laser head, one of those is a print module, and what I'm going to show you today step by step is the rotary attachment. You can use it and take a plain red tumbler, engrave on it, and turn it into this. Now the last time that I used my xTool M2 laser, I was lasering on something flat. In order to do a tumbler, we're going to use a rotary attachment, and it's going to laser the tumbler from the side. You'll see what I'm talking about in a minute. So there's a few steps we need to take so that we can do that. First of all, let's move this up and over so you can see it a little bit better. And then we're going to go ahead and detach this from the machine. To do that, you just unplug the cable on the side. And then this is held to this by a magnet, so I'm just going to pull forward. Now we're going to add that laser module back on, but since we need it to be horizontal, we're going to use this shelf to do that. On the back of the shelf we have 2 pins, and they're going to go in this hole and this hole, and then magnets are just going to guide it into place. Super simple to do. Now we're going to add the laser module back on. Again, we have 2 pins, and the magnets guide it right into place. Now we need to plug it back up. Now when you're using the rotary attachment, the beam is coming this way, and so xTool sent an extra little shield just to help protect the eyes even better. Now the lid protects your eyes, but since they sent it, I assume it's important. I'm going to go ahead and use this. Now here's the rotary attachment, and you can just leave it plugged into one of the extension ports on the back right side of your machine. This rotary attachment is going to go about right here, but we have a couple of spacers that's going to help us know exactly where to put it. So here's our spacers, and they have letters on the front and the back. What you need to do is you need to have one of the spacers with the R side up, that means right. They're calling them positioning plates, and we're going to put it in the front right corner of the laser bed. And then this is going to rest up against it at the front and the side. So I'm going to shove it in to make sure it's really tight. Then we're going to put the one with the L facing up right down here. And then I'm going to push the base toward it, and that helps you know it's really squared up. With the rotary attachment, you also get this leveling tool. Now, if you see these 2 little grooves right here, you can slide these over those grooves, but today my tumbler is going to be pretty far out there, so I'm going to leave it setting to the side. And I want these wheels to be centered up on this right here. And then I could just slide it over against the positioning plate so that I know it's squared up as well. Now it's time to attach our tumbler. So here's my tumbler, and then I'm using this chuck accessory today. When you get the rotary tool, you get a few of these different types of attachments. So these are a longer rubber one, there's some metal prong type attachments, and then there's shorter ones that are similar to this. I'm going to use these longer ones so that I can extend more of my tumbler into the working area in the software. And I'll show you what I mean when we get there. So what you're going to do is you're going to set this down in your tumbler. Make sure it's up against the metal all the way around, and then we're going to tighten it up. Now when I did my first tumbler, I didn't tighten it quite right, and my tumbler fell off. So I'm going to tighten it all the way up, make sure that it's really nice and secure, and then again, make sure that my metal is all the way up against these rubber handles, or these rubber pieces. Next, we need to attach the chuck to the rotary attachment. There's a couple of pins coming out the side of that, and then we're going to put the shaft right in this silver piece. So I'm just going to slide it in there, and I'll move that out of the way for now. And then I'm going to twist it till those pins fall down into the right area. Now I'll bring this back to see if it's level. I'm going to use this little level I got off of Amazon. The thing I love about this is it has a magnet on the bottom. So it sits on your tumbler really nicely. Now right now you can see the bubble is not between the two lines. And I don't just like it to be between the two lines, I like it to be dead in the center. So I'm going to start turning the handle of this, and that is raising the left end of my tumbler. And now that the bubble's in the middle, I'm going to go ahead and stop. Lastly, there's some little clips over here on the side, and I'm just going to press my cable into those. Those hold that cable nice and close to the side of the laser. That way we can close the lid. So let's just jump into the software, set this up, and start engraving the tumbler. I'm using what's called xTool Studio. That's going to run my laser. Now I do want to show you a couple things. Here's the design that I'm going to use. I'm using the one on the left. I got that from Creative Fabrica, and I'll put a link to it just in case you're interested. Then I took the design into Silhouette Studio, a design software, just to check it out and to see what it would look like on my tumbler. So what I did is, first of all, it came in black, so I put a red background behind it, and then I changed the color of it to silver just to see what it would look like. Now the version that I saved is still black or dark gray, but I wanted you to see how I check to see what these are going to look like. Now that we're back in xTool Studio, we'll go right up here and click on New Project. And then there is newer firmware. I'm going to go ahead and X out of that for now. Then I'm going to go over here to the mode. So the default is lasering on flat surface. I can click here and I see the various pictures of things that I might have available to me. These are just various xTool features. I'm going to click on Use Rotary Attachment. Then I'm going to click on Unknown Material, and I'm going to select this purple coffee tumbler. This just gives me some settings to start with. So I selected it and I'll say Apply. And you can see now it knows that I'm using that rotary attachment, and this is going to help me line things up. It's also saying to ensure correct installation before you use the attachment, and then if you click right here, there's pictures that show you how. Now I need to decide between the normal process. The normal process is good when you're using a straight tumbler. So if the sides are let me get that picture back. If the sides are very straight. If you have a tapered tumbler, you would probably want to use the modeling process. In the modeling process, you can have the laser measure to various parts of the tumbler so that it has a really accurate idea of how the tumbler is shaped. For me, we're going to go ahead and stick with normal process. If I wanted to switch, I would just click over here. But let's go back to normal. Okay, now I have to select my jaw type. So let's click the down arrow. There's three main types. Let's look at cylinder. Those are some shorter attachments similar to what I'm using. The extended jaw is what I'm going to use today, and I'm going to use an inner grip. Let's look at the outer grip. That's where you're actually clamping onto the outside of the tumbler. And then there's also this T-shaped jaw. You get all of these with the rotary attachment. So let's go up to what I'm using, and we'll click on Extended Jaw, Inner Grip. Now you can see a non-processing area. And I talked about that earlier. I wanted to use those extended grips so that I could get more of the tumbler out into the working area. So now I want to measure the tumbler, or have the laser measure the tumbler. So I'm going to click right here. And then I need to look at the tumbler and see where it's positioned at. Since this is a straight tumbler, it would probably be okay to measure right there. But I'm going to hit this left arrow. I think that's a better area right there. And so I'll click on Measure. Notice that when I do that, the first thing it does is it goes up and it measures to the rotary attachment part, the black part at the top of it. Then it goes to the area of the tumbler that I told it to measure. Let's go ahead and bring in our design. So I'm going to click on this import button, or the import icon. Here's my image, so I'll select it and I'll say open. Now, since my tumbler is going sideways, if I were to do it like this, first of all, it would be going horizontal and it would be upside down. So I'm going to go ahead and rotate this. I can either grab this and drag here like that, or I could just go up here and plug in 90. Either way will work. And then I'm going to pull this up so that the center of the flag is on the center line. Now with the straight skinny tumbler, this is pretty easy. Once you start adding in handles and all that, it gets a little more complex. But in essence, this line right here, right now, is at the top of the tumbler, the highest part of the tumbler. When it starts to engrave, that highest part of the tumbler will rotate backwards and the laser will laser from that back side. Now you can see that my design is 6 inches from this end to this end. And the printable area of my tumbler is about 7.5 inches. You do have to take into consideration that silver band at the top. And so I'm going to use the arrows on my keyboard and I'm going to move this over a little bit. And when I did a little test on an old tumbler that has all kinds of markings on it, I found that this was a really good place for this design. Now a lot of this is just from experience or using the framing feature. We'll talk about the framing feature in just a minute. Okay, I am on Engrave. My output is clicked on. If it was clicked off, this wouldn't process. So I want this layered process, so I have to make sure that's on. Again, I'm on Engrave. Now this is showing a power of 40 and a speed of 100. And I've been testing settings, and we're going to bump this up quite a bit. If I go at a speed of 100, this tumbler is going to take a really long time. So we're going to bump this up to 100, and we're going to bump this up to 200. Again, so much of this just comes from experience and experimenting. Lots of experimenting. I'm going to do one pass, and I'm going to do 200 lines per centimeter. Now there's 2 engraving modes. Unidirectional, which means it's going to laser one way. So here's what would happen. The laser would make a pass, it would laser during that pass, and then it goes all the way back over. Then the next laser passes here, then it travels all the way back over, the next laser passes here. If you use bidirectional, what happens with this is it's going to laser this way, it's going to laser this way, it's going to laser this way, and so you're saving time. Now, if you have a very intricate design, it's less accurate. But for this design, I think bidirectional is going to be fine. So the last thing that I would do before I start this processing is I would click on this framing button. With my software, when I click on this, you can see that it just points to one area, and it really should go all the way around it. Now I'm using some very, very early software to test out this machine, and so I do need to update that software, but I wanted to make this video today, and I know that the software and my position settings and all that are going to be fine. So let's click on Process, and it's detecting that the 10-watt laser head is on there, and it thinks it's going to take about 35 minutes and 43 seconds. So I'm going to click Start. And now I need to press the button on the front of the laser before it'll actually start. Before that, I'll turn on my air filter. I'm leaving this in real time just for a few seconds so that you can see how it starts off. But with a processing time of over 35 minutes, I'm going to use the magic of technology and turn this part of the video up to warp speed. Now I'm really happy with the functioning of this rotary attachment. With the magnet on the bottom of it, it keeps the attachment stable, and everything worked really smoothly for me. At this point, this engrave might not look like much, but don't worry, this is going to clean up nicely. Okay, here's a better look at what it looks like straight out of the laser. First, I'll clean this with some Awesome. I've gotten Awesome at the Dollar Tree store as well as Dollar General, but you can even get it off of Amazon. Watch what happens when I spray this on. It just kind of melts what's left on the tumbler away. Then I just clean it off with a paper towel. Look how good it looks now. So much better. But I also clean these with water and a magic eraser type sponge, and that shines it up even more. So thank you so much for joining me. I hope you have a great rest of your day. If you're interested in an M2 or some of the supplies I used today, check out the links in my video description. Thanks again, and I hope to see you in my next video.